Am I the asshole for missing my FIL's funeral after my mill booked my husband first class but me economy? Me F31 and my mill don't have a close relationship. She's civil towards me but can be a bit passive-aggressive at times and we tend to disagree oftentimes. We live in a different state. Phil passed away suddenly and Mill told me and my husband to come attend the funeral. She booked our tickets to fly to her state. But the issue started when my husband told me that we couldn't sit together in the plane because his mom had booked him a first-class ticket while I got economy. I was flabbergasted by this. I tried asking him why but he urged me to suck it up, and we'll talk about it later. In that particular moment I felt so much humiliation and contempt. I felt like she was treating me as less than even in her hard times. I decided to not go and just go back home. My husband was shocked by my decision to go home and tried to convince me to just go but I declined. He went alone and I ended up missing the funeral. He was livid, just calling M3 and texting nasty things, calling me petty and spoiled. He said that I should be grateful his mom paid for my ticket to begin with, then said that she doesn't owe me a goddamn thing. I argued about how she could have just booked us both in economy if money was an issue, but he called me pathetic for thinking about it when his dad just died. He said it was cruel what I did and that his mom and family will never forget that I missed the funeral over ridiculous reasons. Am I the asshole for going home over this? ETA. One of the reasons I didn't settle for the economy ticket was because I wanted to sit next to my husband and support him. He sobbed the whole ride to the airport and I didn't want to leave his side. I was shocked when he told me we couldn't sit together, and how he said it like he had no issue with it. The seat issue was more important than supporting your husband after the death of his father? You are the asshole. Yes, it was very shitty from your mill to book you in economy class, while your husband was in first class. But you let a petty quarrel with your mill prevent you from supporting your husband when he needed you the most. You husband have every right to be pissed. You basically told him that your grudge against your mill is more important than supporting him. No, I won't say shish. The husband doesn't suck. And the mill just lost her lifelong partner, have to pay for plane tickets for 2 persons, and she wanted to pay a little treat to her son. I am giving her the benefit of the doubt that she did this to spoil her son, not to piss off her dill. Am I the asshole for expecting my son to share his room? Background. My 40SF husband, 40SM, and I bought a 3-bedroom house a few years ago, shortly before the panini. We of course took the master bedroom, and the other 2 bedrooms went to our children, then 12 female and 10 male. We put a very nice double bed in the larger room, and a single bed in the smaller room, and told them both that they could choose their rooms, but whoever ended up in the larger room may be asked to share or relocate for visiting family members, while whoever ended up in the smaller room would have it to themselves always. We almost never have family over. Hubby and I are both only children, and our parents are in other provinces. So we were surprised when our older daughter chose the smaller room, and our younger son chose the larger room. But okay, they worked it out between themselves, both seemed happy with the choice, so okay. And it has remained that way for a couple of years. Now, we have a 4-day weekend coming up. My kids are now 15 female and 12 male, and my mother decided to come down to visit. Of course, we told her okay, my husband and I, as we hadn't seen each other in a while. And I told our son, with the larger room and bed, that grandma would be here for a few days, and would be using his bed. Well, my son threw a fit. He didn't want to share a room with grandma, not even on an air mattress, not even for 3 nights, she smells funny. So we reminded him of the original deal, and offered to put the air mattress in the living room, but that wasn't enough, he'd have no privacy there. His sister offered to let him put the air mattress in her room, which she wasn't required to do, and that wasn't okay either. My husband and I offered to let him put the air mattress in our room, and he said no to that, because sharing a room with your parents, God bless the privilege, but whatever. Finally, I put my foot down and said, the condition of you having the bigger room was that you'd give it up for visiting family members. So one way or another, you're sleeping on an air mattress for 3 nights. You can choose if the air mattress goes in your room or our room or the living room, or literally any room in this house, but you are sleeping on an air mattress while grandma is here. Shortly after that confrontation, my husband came to me and suggested that we encourage my mom to stay in a hotel. I asked him who was going to pay for that hotel. Since she can't afford it, we can't afford to put her up, and he went silent. Now he's calling me the asshole for forcing our son to give up his room for all of 3 nights, and suggesting that I tell my mom not to come at all since apparently none of us can afford it. Edit. I sincerely appreciate everyone's comments and judgments, but I have officially reached the point where every time I look at my notifications, it adds 2 every second without me even having to hit refresh. Clearly I should have posted this on my main account, since apparently Reddit karma is important in some way. Lol. To follow the common am I the asshole trend and respond to some common themes. 1. Why don't I offer my own, and my husband's, bed to my mom? My husband has back problems, so also cannot viably sleep on an air mattress. I will not be going into detail on this. I also assume that it will be incredibly obvious to everyone why it is not viable for my husband and my mother to sleep in a bed together while I sleep on an air mattress. Not to mention that she would never allow me to give up my bed for her as a visitor. 2. Why doesn't my mom sleep on the couch, air mattress? She's 83 years old. Need I say more? 3. Anything involving my son and daughter switching rooms. My daughter is willing to help in the short term, but she seems a bit smug right now about the overall room choice, so she has no desire to switch rooms. And I will not force her, because what kind of parent would I be if I hold my son to the letter of his deal, but go back on my word to my daughter? You may decide I'm the asshole, and I'll accept that, but I am not a hypocrite. 4. I am fully aware of the privacy a 12-year-old boy requires. We've had that conversation, and, at the prompting of a couple commenters, I have also recently asked my husband if there was a private conversation between him and my son that would in some way change the situation. He said no. Since I do not currently have any reason to believe my husband would lie to me outright, I'm considering that conversation closed. 5. Rip my DMS apparently? Lol. I didn't know that happened to 40-something married moms. But please know that I am not interested. Not the asshole. This sub is obviously full of children who think 3 days on an air mattress, which he agreed to, is akin to some form of abuse that will leave him scarred well into his adult life. I think he can give his grandmother his bed and stop being a brat, which nothing against him, but is fairly typical kid behavior. I occasionally had to do the same for my grandparents. In hindsight it was obviously the right call. You're not putting your elderly parents on a damn air mattress, that's insanity. Not the asshole. He is not a toddler. Ask him why is he so adamant about it, but then remember him, he has the bigger room for a reason and he needs to obey. All these people saying op is the asshole. Oh my god, what is wrong with you? They are not abusing him, they have been more than fair and he is throwing a fit. I agree with trying to understand why he is acting like this to see if there is some underlying issue there, but this kid need to understand the concept of compromise. Am I the asshole for not letting my pregnant friend eat my wife's food? I, 33M, have had the same friend since college. We became close our freshman year and have remained friends since then. It consists of me and my 4 buddies plus our wives. It started out as me and my buddies, but as we got older our families have expanded and so have the friend group. Once a month we have barbecues and each one of us take turns hosting. My wife, Jane, is autistic and has trouble eating certain foods. She has sensory issues. To be safe I have given my friends a list of foods that are safe for her to eat and won't cause any problems. It's really easy food and none of them have a problem accommodating her. The other day we were over at one of my friend's house. His name is John, fake name. We all got our food and his wife, Caroline, went and grabbed the plate that was for my wife. My other friends, Nick, wife saw. Her name is Sarah and she is pregnant. She said she didn't want the food that was made and wanted my wife's food. The problem was John and Caroline only made enough for Jane and not enough for anybody else. Sarah then demanded my wife give up her food because she has a baby to nourish and my wife doesn't. My wife has trouble communicating what she wants to other people, so I told Sarah that my wife only eats certain foods and this is one of them. Sarah snapped back saying that the other food is making her nauseous and she has to eat something and my wife's food is the only thing that looks appealing to her. I told her that she or her husband can get in the kitchen and make something, but my wife will not be giving up her food. She called me rude and inconsiderate and stormed out of the backyard. Nick went to chase after her shortly after. Am I the asshole for not letting a pregnant woman eat my wife's food? Not the asshole. Say it with me. The world does not owe you because you did the dirty and squirty raw. I can't take credit for coming up with this phrase, sauce. Not the asshole. Being pregnant isn't free pass for anything you want. Manners and basic decency still applies. Not the asshole. Pregnancy is difficult, but that doesn't mean she can be that entitled. Your wife is autistic and you have given a list of food to your friends, which they don't have trouble accommodating. This was an issue she and her husband needed to solve. If that means that the husband had to run to a grocery store, well, so be it. Just because she is nourishing a baby doesn't mean it's okay to make your wife starve. ETA. Thank you for the award, much appreciated. Am I the asshole for telling my son I can't trust him? I have 3 kids. A 15-year-old son and 8-year-old twin daughters. They all get along well and my son loves his sisters and vice versa. Sometimes my husband and I have to go to certain events and I ask my son if he can watch his sisters for the night. He usually says yes unless he has plans. I just ask my mom then. So on Friday night we had an event to go to and I again asked my son if he'd be willing to babysit. He said sure and that was it. We came back at around midnight and I went to check on the kids and my son was fast asleep while one of the twins was puking her guts out and the other one was crying. I was surprised but I also didn't really blame my son in any way. They weren't really making any noise and were clearly asleep before all hell broke loose. Well, I managed to calm my girls down and they end up telling me how their big brother was really mean and grumpy all day and when they asked for food he gave them a jar of peanut butter. The twins cannot have peanut butter, they aren't allergic but it makes them ill. The girls know as well but they were hungry and he said they had to eat it. My son knows this and the peanut butter is kept out of the twins' sight and reach and is literally only in the house for him. I woke him up the next morning and asked him if all this was true. He just made a noise and was all like, "The little snitches. Yeah, so they had a little peanut butter, what's the big deal?" I told him that he knows they can't have it and not only that but I also don't like how they described his attitude. Especially when he told them they had to eat it. He just told me to stop overthinking, he forgot peanut butter makes them that sick. He only said they had to eat it because he didn't want them going hungry, he didn't feel like ordering, cooking or warming up leftovers either and also the twins were being annoying. I told him that these excuses are not good enough and that what he did was honestly kind of cruel. I told him that I don't know if I can trust him with the girls anymore as well. He just rolled his eyes and told me that I'm being really fucking dramatic and that the twins will be fine, I don't need to act like this. He's really upset with me and every time me or his dad say anything, he'll just reply with, "Oh, I thought I was cruel? I thought you couldn't trust me?" He's not budging and he's not normally like this so I'm wondering, am I the asshole? My sister told me to post on here since I'm so conflicted. Didn't think it would hurt. Not the asshole. If this had been someone other than your son, I'd be calling it abuse and assault. Certainly negligent. He is clearly unreliable and I'd be very upset. The fact you let your son talk to you in such a manner is alarming as well. Not the asshole. He needs a therapist. Cruelty without remorse isn't normal. Possible guesses: he's been through a recent trauma. He has a new addiction, video games, or drugs, or alcohol. Or insert your fav here. For example, he has executive dysfunction, i.e. his brain wouldn't let him order food, and is lying to cover up for it. That last one's a little out there, granted, but I mention it JIC. Edit. To clarify, problems lead to stress, and stress can lead to bad behavior. I'm not saying video games or whatever causes violence. I'm saying these are common problems that cause an undue amount of stress.